Net zero energy is when you drink as much coffee as it takes your body to consume the calories that you need for that particular day. Net zero coffee right there.
Net zero coffee.
Hi, I'm Charlie Christenson. I'm the VP of our engineering team at Stok. I grew up in Minnesota, a small town in Minnesota. Some of my hobbies are biking. I'm a big road cyclist, and then anything outdoors, playing with the kids, going to the beach. Those are my favorite things. Net zero energy, you want to hear about it? Net zero energy is when we produce as much energy on site as we consume every year on that building. Portfolio level net zero allows us to make a big impact across a large variety of clients and building types, make that quickly, use economies of scale to get the savings that we need across that portfolio. Without portfolio clients making the impact on hundreds of buildings at a time or 1,000 buildings at a time, we're never going to get there. One building at a time definitely is not enough to make the impact that we need to. We work with our clients to help them really set and understand their goals and targets for net zero, really get buy-in from the stakeholders, set a plan and targets that they can meet over time, really help to develop a strategy and implementation plan for them to make the changes that they need to make, and then ultimately help them follow along that plan through implementation and make sure that we're tracking, monitoring, and making sure that those savings persist and they're actually getting to where they need to be. It's best when we come in very early in the design on a particular single building project. In that case, we work alongside the owners, alongside the architects and engineers to really set up a baseline and understand where the building is starting from. From there, we help them evaluate different options, what's on the table, what's realistic for this particular project to achieve. We look at a high level what's possible from production in looking at renewable energy on site, along with all the energy efficiency measures, and try to find the most cost-effective balance to get that project to net zero. At scale, it is a very different ballgame, so we need to understand kind of the parameters of every different portfolio that we're looking at. So, for example, we have a client who has a portfolio that's growing very quickly, so a lot of their carbon, their emissions that are associated with it are their new construction projects. Like they have a big development component to their portfolio. So over the next 10 years, they're going to be adding hundreds of buildings to their portfolio. So for these clients, we're looking at net zero, and we pay a lot of attention to their new construction standards, what it's going to take for those new projects to get to net zero, and that's a really important thing for this particular portfolio. We have another client that is a municipal client, and they're growing very slowly, right, 1 or 2% a year. So the focus for them is how to get their existing buildings to net zero. So that's retro commissioning, that's doing building audits, adding renewable energy systems at scale, doing electrification on their existing buildings. It's a very different perspective depending on what the makeup is of that portfolio. Yeah, we definitely spend a lot of time helping clients understand where they are today and then where they'll be in 10 years or 20 years. And we're doing this business as usual analysis because we need to understand those changes in the portfolio so that we can address what they're going to look like in 2030 or 2045 or 2050 if they didn't have any of these these goals for net zero. And that's really kind of where we start from is that business as usual analysis. I think the future, we're really shifting away from zero net energy to zero net carbon. People are really understanding that it's the emissions from this energy that are the important thing, not the energy itself. So we're really shifting our focus from energy to carbon. And then once we do that, the carbon emissions also becomes a much greater scope, right? It's not just the operational energy of the building, but also waste and water and transportation and their supply chain. And so the scope of that carbon analysis, which again on a portfolio basis is really going to be the future, the scope of that gets much bigger and we can have a much bigger impact. Definitely it's important to realize that the clock is ticking and we only have a limited amount of time to make the changes that we need to make to have the impact that we need to have. So if we're not already doing these sorts of studies and have partnerships and doing these analyses, now is the time to get started on this. Certainly everyone going forward needs to be involved in this. Anyone, especially those people who have a larger portfolio of buildings, more than just a single building. Those are the places we can see the biggest impact. And if you haven't started already, it's time to get started right now.